Protests and outcry are taking place all over the separate shootings of 2 black men by police officers this week. So I'm going to give you both stories real quick. Late Tuesday night, 37-year-old Alton Sterling was pinned down and shot in the chest outside a convenience store where he was selling CDs after a homeless man reportedly called 911, saying that a man matching Sterling's description showed him his gun after the homeless man asked for money. The shooting was captured on video by the convenience store worker, who happened to be a friend, and a few bystanders. One of the officers shouted that Sterling had a gun, even though the video footage doesn't support that showing the gun. We have it. I don't know if you want to see it.
I don't need to see it.
It's pretty. It's pretty.
He
horrible.
had a gun, right?
The homeless man said.
I know,
that
but then they
gun.
found a gun.
Right, but he hadn't drawn.
I know, but you got to work that into the story, otherwise you're going Huffington Post. Yeah.
Well, I didn't see it. I've seen the video now several times.
No, he didn't brandish the gun. He had. It's a different story if you don't have a gun at all.
Right.
He had a gun.
Right.
Okay.
Which
I'm just
don't
looking.
think sure.
I just want all. I want all the information.
Gotcha.
Okay. So he has a gun. So here's the deal. I was sort of looking at this. First off, I would just tell people, look, cops will shoot anyone at any time for anything, anywhere. That's number one. Number two, the first story, I was like, look, sad the guy's dead, but you're selling CDs in front of a store and you got a piece on you and you allegedly show that piece to somebody, they're going to call the cops, and whatever happens after that, it's going to involve you. And my advice to anybody of any ethnicity is stay out of that situation, because it can very easily, as history has shown, and whatever your skin color, can end up this way. The second guy, that's the story that's very upsetting to me. Yeah. The first one is guy's dead, that's bad. But the problem, and I want to be clear, in the black community is no one deserves to be shot, but not everyone is a hero. Let's not inflate these guys' status. One guy strong arms a guy in a liquor store, grabs a bunch of stuff, cops are called or show up or whatever. Hey, I'm sorry. That's a much different story than a guy sitting in his car who's saying, I got to reach for my wallet. I have a concealed carry permit. Let's not make them the exact same story, is what I'm saying.
Well, and I think where the actual outrage and horror comes in the Alton Sterling story is in the video he's physically pinned down on the ground and shot point blank.
No, that's horrible.
So in that case, there was no reaching or doing...
Cops, here's the deal. Cops are the dumbest, angriest guys who were played on the football team in high school. And they are wanting to, when you decide to be a cop, your wiring is of a certain way. If you sign up to be a cop, if you ask me or most of the guys I grew up with, could you be a cop? I go, no, I couldn't be a cop. Not because I would be fearful of being cops. I just couldn't impose myself on other people that way. I don't want to wrestle junkies on the sidewalk. I'd have trouble giving people parking tickets and or moving violations. A couple things with these cops. First off, they pull the guy over for a busted taillight. Yeah. That's number one. Stop doing that, cops. Stop with the chicken ass stuff with the pullover. This led into this. But I mean, let's just stop that out on patrol to make money move in the first place. That everyone seems to be, every municipality has realized, oh, these guys are money collectors. They're like Danny in the Joint. Good indie band.
You know, I actually read an article on it today, and they're calling it policeteering, when they're literally just shaking people down for money.
Well, it's not the policeman's fault, and it's not the chief of police fault. It's the governor's fault and the mayor's fault, because they quickly, when they're doing their budgets, went, oh, wait a minute, these homeless guys are costing us money. What do these guys do? Well, they're here to protect and serve. Yeah, but some of these guys are turning a pretty good profit. I mean, these guys are pulling over people left and right, making tons and tons of dough for the city. Once that began, it's really hard to shut that spigot off. Like, once that inflow of, hey, there's these guys. Yeah, what do you pay them? With benefits and retirement and everything, we probably average about $41 an hour. All right. But in a good hour, those guys can pack in like $1,500, maybe $2,000 worth of fines. Ooh, We got earners on Moto Guzzi's out here just buzzing around, hammering checks. Okay, this is good. Let's focus on that. Oh, don't you want them to go to the seedy part of town and look into gang activity? No, park them on Forest Lawn Drive in front of the Jewish cemetery. Have the guy he'll back the bike up there, and then when people go too fast down Forest Lawn, we'll get $340 each time he stops somebody.
Even if they're in mourning.
Right. So the second it turned into that,
that's
a major problem.
Right.
The other thing is, as I've said, whatever your skin color is, if the cops yell, get on the ground, you got to get on the ground. That's it. Whether you did right or whether you did wrong, you got to get on the ground.
Right. Well, and this is more to that example in the second story that you were referring to. So a woman who began streaming video on Facebook immediately after her boyfriend, 32-year-old Philando Castile, was shot by police in suburban Minneapolis. So the woman, identified by the names both Diamond and Lavish Reynolds, says he'd been stopped for broken taillight, which she says was not actually broken, and that when he stated that he was licensed to carry a gun and that he was reaching for his ID, which the cop had asked for, the cop opened fire right into the window. Yeah. So I have a clip of her talking about it. It does show the boyfriend. It is not pleasant, but it's her basically stating what's happening on Facebook Live in the moment and being very respectful and I think probably in shock.
And he let the officer know that he had a firearm and he was reaching for his wallet, and the officer just shot him in his arm. We're waiting for a back. I will, sir. No worries. He just shot his arm off. We got pulled over on Larpener.
I told him not to reach for it. I told him to get his hand open.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license. Oh my God! Please don't tell me he's
How did he die from being shot in the arm? Must have passed through his arm into his abdomen or something?
Like that.
I think as far as she can see,
yes,
it looks
I will,
like
sir. I'll keep my hands where they are.
So the cop is...
Please don't tell me this, Lord. Please, Jesus, don't tell me that he's gone.
So the cop is clearly distraught, freaking out, doesn't know, what just happened. She keeps it together. This is a 9-minute video. They then ask her to get out of the car, walk backwards, cuff her, put her and her daughter in the back of the police vehicle. We have video, but it's funny. And so the whole time she's very composed and then absolutely just has, an emotional outburst as anybody would when she realizes what's actually happening.
It's the worst.
One of the things that I just got to say, being on the other side also, is that if you're going to carry a gun, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some kind of incident with that gun. Either you get shot or someone else gets shot. If you have a gun, you tend not to back up. It's like you just kind of like, you know what, punk, I'll get away from me. And if you don't have one, you just tend to be a little more passive. I
sort of believe, I look at it as sort of Jimmy's cousin Sal with his taser shock thing. He brought it into the Man Show when we were doing the Man Show, and it took him about 30 minutes to shock all 80 employees of the Man Show because he had it. Like, I have this feeling with cops, good guys, bad guys, whatever it is, it's strapped to your hip. How long before you pull it out? Like, it's right there. It's right up there with my, the cop suicide rates are through the roof because they got a thing that will kill them strapped to them, and I think they tend to use it. And
if that guy didn't have a gun, he wouldn't have showed it. He would have told that homeless guy, get away from me. Get away from me, I'll slap the shit out of you.
Well, wait a minute. Not the homeless guy. The homeless guy was... Oh, the
homeless
guy.
Sterling,
yeah. Okay. Well, also, it's a self-selecting group, too, where you think, who amongst us wants to carry a piece all the time? Well, probably people that are getting into situations or going into neighborhoods or dealing with people that are of a different, who might have a gun as well. So it's like this self-selecting group, but either way.
But in the second category, I mean, he couldn't have done anything more correct, I think, in that situation. You say you have it, you say what you're doing.
Cops are freaked out, and that's this, I'm sure, it's also one of these things where, and here's the other thing. Look, it's not My only protest over this whole thing is when they just turn it into open season on black people. I disagree with that. I think cops will shoot anyone, anytime. They make mistakes all the time. They're not the brightest. And now they're super on edge and super nervous, which makes them even crazier with all this. And this notion of all they do is do black people. No, we just don't report it when it's white people. When the 19-year-old in Fresno gets shot, we look at his skin tone. If he's white, all right, it's not making the news. So, of course, if you did a thing, and there was a shot fire? There was some kid in Fresno got shot. But it's like, look, I showed you many depictions of Whitey getting the crap beat out of him or getting shot. But if you did this, I mean, if this is the way our news was wired, I like to make my car analogies, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the deal. We will, and I'll go back to color. There's black cars out there. There's white cars out there. And there's every other color. But I'll tell you what, the only stories that'll make accidents, make the news for an accident will be black cars. It'll just be black cars. If there's an accident with a white car, that's not newsworthy. If it's a black car, that's newsworthy. And then you sit around and watch the news for a couple of years. Well, what conclusions do you draw? Well, black cars are getting in accidents far more, whatever. But that's not statistically true. It's just we're not reporting. If we refuse to report any other thing other than the black car narrative, then yes, we will all walk around in a society where we think there's something wrong with cops or black cars or whatever the analogy is. And that's where we're at.
It's a good analogy.
Thank you. I say there's plenty of footage of cops shooting Hispanic people and white people and get Mark Garagos in here. He'll tell you he's doing 10 cases that involve a guy walking his dog and a cop just came up and shot him and this and that. But we only care about this one.
Yeah, my only question, because I was thinking about this, because I knew we were going to talk about it, and I'm wondering, you can't prove it because it's just a hypothetical, I guess, psychological, but I'm wondering if in these cops and their anecdotal situations, if they come across a big black guy, they're on some sort of different alert.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. Because they create more crime statistically, black males in a certain age, than do other groups of that age or other ages or females or Asians or whatever it is. Yes, of course. When a cop walks up on a big black dude, he has a different mindset than he does on a elderly Asian woman.
So is it possible that in that situation, because of that, he's more trigger happy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's absolutely what it is. And you're not going to weed that out. You can't. You can't weed that out of human beings. That's how every human being is wired. Doesn't make it right. It's just, you're not going to weed that out. The only way to weed it out is to change the statistic. That's going to take a long time.
Right.
That's the only way to do this. I mean, you can do all the cop training you want. They got guns. They're some of the dumbest guys you went to high school with. They're wired a certain way. It's going to happen. But it's going to happen to Whitey and Hispanic too. And it'll happen to, first off, above black, it's just male. I mean, you say, well, it's black males. No, it's male, white males, Hispanic males, black males. It's just males. Okay, that's number one. Well, what are cops doing? Well, when they walk up on a dude between the age of 16 and 31, their hands on the gun, because that's who commits all the crimes. Whatever your color is. Right. That's the guys that could get violent. Or physically may be imposing.
Yeah.
That's how it works. What happened to the Fresno kid, Dylan Noble?
Yeah, there's a video. It's unclear exactly what happened. But when the video starts, he's on the ground and they're screaming at him not to move, and then they shoot at him at least twice.
But he's white. I don't get it.
Apparently they felt he wasn't obeying their commands.
All right. I know what's more egregious than this. The guy's 8 feet away lying on his belly, and they stand there a safe distance away. They're not wrestling with him. There's no implication that he could get their gun, or he's laying on the ground, and they just shoot him while he lays on the ground. Okay.
This says they were 12 to 15 feet away.
Okay, well, I got better eyeballs than they do. But either way, I mean, look, he's halfway up a Ford F-150 with a body lift kit and a 3-inch suspension lift, and they're standing by the tailgate, so they can't be that far back. I should go into court. All right, so I get back to what I always get back to, which is it's wrong, But it's not stop with the narrative of open season on black people. It's poisoning us.
I never seen that on the news.
This story?
Yeah.
Why would
quickly.
you? He's a white guy.
I like the truck.
Who cares? Well, it's probably for sale.
Oh God, forgive us, Lord.
Well, no, but from the mouth of convicts. Danny says, I never seen this. Yeah, no, there's any of us. It's not a story. It's a 19-year-old kid who looks like a nice snowboarder getting executed in the street in the daylight hours. Daylight hours. It's not a story. It doesn't exist.
Sad.
Doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? He's younger than these other guys that were shot. He was executed by cops. It was nearby. It was in Fresno. We're here in L.A. Why no story? Doesn't fit the narrative. That's all. So please, everyone with this stuff, understand what you're getting fed. And of course, if you're the black community, you're going to be outraged because you're watching TV just like I'm watching TV. You don't hear about the guy from Fresno. You hear about these two brothers, and you go, I'm outraged.
And you watch the news, and I don't want to feel hunted if I'm in that category.
And then you get interviewed, and it's like you see the black mom. And she's like, the only time this happens is to young black men. That's the only time this goes on. And of course, that's the narrative you've been fed. That's the only going to show accidents involving black cars. Okay. I just don't. All I'm saying is it happens. It's going to happen, and it's sad when it happens. But if you're a news agency, you got to tell it when it happens every time, or tone it down. But you can't just steer this. That's not news. It really isn't you giving the news. It's you technically giving the news. But if you're doing it so selectively that it seems like you're creating a narrative that doesn't fully exist, then you're doing a lot of harm to the community. Yes.
You're kind of instigating.
Well, in a way, when, if you owned a pharmacy in Ferguson and it was burned to the ground, CNN has something to do with that because they steered it into this. They do little things like calling the guy a kid, even if he's 19 or whatever it is. They'll call him a young boy or something like that, a gentle giant and things like this. These are all things to incite, which I get. But here's the thing. Just tell us the story. The guy was 18. The guy got shot. Here's what he did. You start working into the gentle giant part, and now you're sitting home, and you're black, and you're getting pissed off.
Everybody kind of forgets that the one guy strong-armed somebody in a market, and then this guy's carrying a gun. And the minute you're carrying a gun, you know what? I'm sorry, you're fair game.
Well, you're fair game because you brandished it. That's allegedly, and somebody called the cops and said, that big brother's got a gun. Okay, the cops are already showing up with their antennas at full sail. Like, they're showing up agitated, freaked out, whatever. They're showing up like that.
And 9 times out of 10, when they get a call of any kind, they're agitated. They're already on, they never know, especially domestic violence. It's like elder abuse.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, go out and Social Security, by the way. Speaking of elder abuse, that was a working title.